All right, I've been told that if you want to hijack or divert a conversation, you bring up politics or religion, right? The famous conversations around the Thanksgiving table. Now we have an example of that in this passage today when the woman brings up the proper place to worship. So it's both political and religious. Mount Gerizim or the Jerusalem temple. Now I find it interesting that this woman goes off into a theological debate about the proper place to worship God. Kind of feels like a distraction from the conversation, but is it a diversion or is it part of the conversation? Let's think about it. If her body's inability to bear children was seen by her community as a sign of God's curse upon her, how in the world is she supposed to make things right when she's not allowed to worship in the correct place? She has no avenue to make this thing right. Samaritans are not allowed in Jerusalem. So is she cursed forever and can do nothing about it? Like you can see how this is right in line with the conversation, right? No wonder this woman has taken matters into her own hands like Tamar. But instead of getting caught up in the political and religious debate of the proper place to worship, for a community to worship God, Jesus assures her that a time has come when location will not inhibit correct worship. I mean, that's radical in and of itself for this time. Spirit and truth can be found here at the well in midday. And no one people have a monopoly on where and when to worship God. And that was a revolutionary idea in a society built around a temple worship system. Now, she does agree wholeheartedly that a time will arrive one day when the Messiah comes. And the next line that Jesus speaks is one of his most powerful that ever came from his lips. Jesus then says the words, "The I am is with you." Now in the English it just says, "I am he." But Jesus says, "The I am is with you." The I am is the name that God spoke to Moses upon request for God's name at that burning bush scenario back in the book of Exodus. So this was the very commission God gave to Moses to go back to his enslaved people and tell them that they are free to go. Moses is unsure of his ability to do so and the people's willingness to even listen to him because he was in exile, just like this woman was in exile, but he was in exile for 40 years now. But he hears the words from God, "Tell them the I am is with you." And these words are now the same words spoken to this righteous, courageous, and desperate woman from the lips of the Messiah. Go lead an exodus. So she immediately runs back to the town and proclaims, "Come see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could he possibly be the Messiah?" So the people come streaming from the village to see him. Jesus gives an invitation at the beginning of this book for his disciples, come and see, where he lives. That come and see was something that was right at the beginning that Jesus used a lot. The disciples then give an invitation for more disciples to come and see the Messiah. And now this Samaritan woman has given this invitation, the same invitation to Samaritans to come and see the Messiah. And this woman now bears spiritual children within her community with the same invitation the Messiah was using. Come and see. And she does so in like a Moses-like manner. Now the Eastern Church honors this woman with a name, Fotini, which means the luminous one, and refers to her as an equal to the apostles. It may feel like a participation prize to us who like happily ever after stories, like, oh, okay, she got some people to come see the Messiah. But sometimes life doesn't work in these happily ever after stories kind of ways. She remains childless. According to the passage, doesn't say that it doesn't, but she becomes the spiritual mother of a whole community who will now bring her in and care for her as they ought to have been doing in the first place. So Jesus honors her, not by fixing her situation, but the context in which her situation is found, by entrusting her with the knowledge that he is the Messiah before anybody else in the whole gospel here, and making the first apostle, this Samaritan woman, sent to the Samaritans. Jesus gives her authority and he gives her opportunity. And that's something that she had very little of before this encounter. So perhaps we too often look to God to ease our situation by fixing all of our problems. But then God provides us with opportunity instead of answers. Opportunity to build up our own character, strength, and dignity, and to take life into our own hands and try and do something with it. And then our situations can change because we have. Sometimes.